I think this is really going to influence how I feel about these soft pastel pencils. A set of chalk or soft pastel pencils are an essential addition to your artist's tools and materials. It can be a daunting task to decide which brand to use, as there are so many to choose from. So I decided to shop online, where I found all the time-tested professional pastel pencils such as Faber-Castell, Carbon Othello, Conte à Paris, Caran d'Ache, Koh-i-Noor and Derwent. And I also found a range of less expensive brands such as Lightwish, Pandafly and Kalour. After a price comparison and a bit of research, I chose the box of 50 pastel pencil colours by Kalour. It appears to be artist quality and it's about half the price of the other well-known brands. Let's read what's on the tin. It says the Kalour brand has a soft core lead, 50 unique vibrant colours, suitable for precision colouring and fill-in, ideal for drawing, illustrating and colouring, break resistant, soft and smooth. It is professional grade artist quality, light fast and acid free, and is suitable for all levels of expertise. Let's see if it lives up to all of this. So here are a few of my expensive Faber-Castell and Othello pastel pencils. Let's expand our collection and see what's in the tin. On the lid of the tin we have all the colours laid out. The ends of each pencil also indicates the colour. They are individually named and numbered, and each has at least 4 or 5 stars to indicate just how light fast they are. There are 50 pencils in total and it comes with a swatch sheet. Now that's a mouthful. But I do recommend doing the swatch sheet so you can get a good idea of the true colours of the pastel pencils. So just a quick rearrangement of the colours to make it more intuitive. So when I go to choose my colours, it's going to be so much easier. A little note on sharpening pastel pencils. You should use a Stanley knife, an X-Acto knife or a safety blade. Sharpeners are not usually recommended as the core of the pastel pencils are very fragile. I picked up a sharpener specially recommended for coloured pencils and I believe pastels, but I'm not going to risk it. Another useful tool is a block of sandpaper. Use this to create a nice pointed tip after you've sharpened your pastel pencil with a blade or a knife. A regular plastic eraser or kneadable eraser will come in handy too. Let's make use of our swatch sheet so we can get a real idea of what the colours are like. Unfortunately, the layout of the swatch card is a little haphazard. I'm going to speed things up a little by selecting all the colours within a certain colour range and doing them one after each other. Let's go through this quickly. Okay, swatch is done. Now let's try out our pencils on different kinds of papers. Again, I've pre-selected all the colours that I'm going to use for my paper test. So let's try out these Kalour pastel pencils on each of these surfaces and see what we get. I'm going to try out some yellows and oranges, which are two of the main colours that were missing from my Faber-Castell and Othello pencils. I have 4 different types of papers here. One is my go-to brown paper, which is very slightly textured. I have a mixed media paper from a sketchbook, which has a greyish colour and a fairly soft surface. I have some cardstock with a smooth surface. And I have a thick textured watercolour paper. Pastels in general give varying effects depending on the surface used. A little technical note while we colour. So whenever colouring or shading, it's always a good idea to start with the light colours first. It's so much easier to go from light to dark than vice versa. Regarding getting rich layers of colours, you need to start off with thin layers. We don't want to cover the whole surface thickly with pigment because it makes it harder to build up a nice rich texture. With the brown paper, I find that I get more residue and more dust, and it feels a little bit scratchy on this paper. On the second square, the mixed media paper, it's a little subtle and has a slightly dull tone to it, but depending on what you're trying to achieve, that might work for you. On the cardstock, it works fairly well and is adhering to the paper nicely. The one I really love though is the way it looks on the thick textured watercolor paper. It has a sort of bumpy, painterly effect, which will work quite nicely to add a little character and interest to a drawing. So let's add a little orange to this yellow and try some blending. The way you blend is up to you. As you go along in your creative journey, you'll find a method that works best for you. You can use a blending stump, a sponge, or even your fingers. I think I will definitely go with the watercolor paper for my still life because it has so much character. I'm not going to use my Faber-Castell or Othello pencils today because I really want to see how these Kalour pencils work with my other pastel materials, and then how they work on their own in certain sections. Before you start any drawing or painting, preparation is key so as not to interrupt your flow. So let's organize all our tools and materials that we will be using. I have a range of soft pastels and pan pastels, and of course, my pastel pencils. I'm starting with the cherries by putting down a layer of red pan pastel. Then I'm going to use the Kalour pastel pencils to give more detail and definition. Again, it's a good idea to do a little swatch test of the colours that you'll be using in your drawing so you get no unpleasant surprises. Soft pastel pencils can be a great addition to your art toolkit. You can use them for so many things. Fine details on your pastel drawings, use them for patterns, you can use them as a standalone to make beautiful drawings, and you can use them in a mixed media drawing. Now I'm using the various Kalour colours to get a bit of definition on the cherries, and I think this is really going to influence how I feel about these Kalour soft pastel pencils, and I'll let you know at the end of the video. So now I'm working on the white jug and using some blues and touches of greens to add a little colour and definition to it. Then I'm blending those colours together with a bit of white pan pastel on top. A little cleanup with an eraser and a touch of white Conte, and I think we are done with the jug. Next, I've selected all the colours I need to execute some delicious fruit. With these fruit, I'm doing a very thin layer of pan pastel, and I'm leaving the edges fairly undone because that's the main area where I'm going to use and apply my Kalour pastel pencils. I have found that the Kalour pencils are not so great for layering. However, if you use them on their own, like with the coconut, they work just fine. You can see that we were able to make some beautiful, effective layers with lots of lines, and that's just super great. However, I would still stick with my Faber-Castell and Carb Othello pastel pencils. They are still definitely my favorite. I know exactly what to expect, and I know they blend well with all my pastels and pan pastel, but I'll still be using these to expand my color range where needed. To be totally honest, I'm looking at the cherries in terms of the result, and the Kalour pencils doesn't seem to work so well. I find I'm really unable to build up as rich a texture as I would like when I use them on top of pan pastels. As a go-to for beginners, or if you just need a few extra colors, I think the Kalour pastels are well worth the money. So there we have it. I really love this still life drawing. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please drop me a comment below and remember to like and subscribe. Wishing you much love. Peace.